If you had the opportunity to shoot the Chinese spy balloon down either over the remote mountains of Alaska or over water near Alaska, why didn't you?
The first would be, in terms of the water, General Van Erck again assessed that it was not there was no hostile act, hostile intent, or potential impact to critical intelligence capabilities. More so, he was continuing to characterize the system. And it's for us now, looking back, there is an assertion that we were absolutely certain that it was, in fact, conducting surveillance.
This from the Senate hearing on the Chinese spy balloon. Here with more is former senior naval intelligence officer and board member of overseers at Stanford's Hoover Institute, John Jordan. John, we had Blaine Holt, General Holt, on earlier, and he said there is no way that it should have taken this long to shoot down the balloon. He also said that it makes us look weak to China. Your reaction to how this was handled and a potential fallout?
Well, General Holt may very well be right in this, but there is another way to look at this, and that is that by allowing it to continue to operate, if we were able to successfully jam its signals, we were able to learn more about its capabilities, gather electronic intelligence and signals intelligence from the balloon, and learn a great deal more about it by seeing it in operation than we could by just collecting the pieces. That could very well be the case, and it's equally likely that General Holt is correct. We just don't know. As for announcing when we detected it, we also don't want to disclose to the Chinese exactly what our capabilities are for detecting these types of things and how far out and what type of objects we're able to do to detect and when. So it's a real cat and mouse intelligence game, and neither side wants to divulge as much as information or as little as possible while gaining as much from the other side. So that's the game, and that's a war that's fought largely outside the public view, Ukraine.
John, what are we going to do with Taiwan? This is what everything is leading toward. We all know it. Every step is toward it. What are we going to do?
Well, the first step with regard to the balloon, regardless of how you looked at the intelligence game and how we played that as it flew over the United States, regardless of where you come down on that, it's a cinch that we need to impose real costs on China for having engaged in this practice to begin with, and for their malign activities around the world with regard to trade, intellectual property, and so forth. So I think the best way to do that, obviously, is to buttress Taiwan's defenses, is make sure that Taiwan has that which it needs stockpiled in the case of a Chinese incursion. Because if China were to attack Taiwan, it's going to be more difficult, I mean, exponentially more difficult, to resupply Taiwan. So it's more important that we pre-position those items, stores, and munitions that Taiwan would need to defend itself. And I think that's a way to impose a cost on China, is to publicly do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, John, I want to get your thoughts on this, a developing story out of Ukraine. Elon Musk's SpaceX curbed Ukraine's use of the Starlink internet for Ukrainian drones. Your reaction to that?
Well, we're going to make a little news today on this. The Russian offensive is underway in Ukraine right now, the much vaunted offensive that Putin's forcing his generals into, that a lot of sources, including the UK Ministry of Defense, say that the generals know that they're not ready to do, doomed to failure by micromanagement from Moscow. It's not a coincidence, in my view, that Starlink has now announced today that they're going to impair Ukraine's ability to use Starlink to control drones during the offensives. And more to the point, Ms. Shotwell, the chief operating officer of couldn't even explain why or how or under what, that they even knew that was happening to begin with. It's really, really strange. And I suspect that it's not a coincidence that the Russian offensive is underway and that somebody got to somebody inside of Musk's organization on behalf of the Russians. That, in conjunction with this rather bizarre piece by Seymour Hersh about the Nord Stream pipeline, the information war is massively afoot, and I think it's getting into the point where it may impair some of Ukraine's command and control abilities through Starlink as well.
Yeah, your reference to Nord Stream 2 is that Russia's blaming the U.S. for destroying it, attacking it. I did want to get back to the SpaceX thing for a moment. You're saying it's not a coincidence. Does this mean that Elon Musk and company are doing something to help Russia? Is that the way you're reading it? And if that's the case, why would they do that?
Well, we do facts here, right, Bob? So let's just lay it out for the viewer here. Starlink was voluntarily providing mobile internet service for Ukrainians. The U.S. taxpayer had subsidized it to some degree, and the Ukrainians had been using this for Wi-Fi, for humanitarian purposes and civil purposes, also been using it for military communications, which Starlink says is okay. But they've also been using it to control drones, which they use to pinpoint Russian positions, Russian artillery, so that Ukrainian artillery and HIMARS can take them out. Now that this offensive is underway, magically, and I think suspiciously, Starlink is saying, well, you know, we're going to inhibit. They actually said we're going to impair Ukraine's ability to do that on the eve of the offensive. And I just think you have to believe in a lot of coincidences to think that that's just happening naturally. Something's fishy is going on.
All right, John Jordan, thank you.